Okay, hi. I thought I would put together a little video about my experiences flat water pumping, comparing the Maliko 280 and the GL 240, the low aspect and high aspect wings from Go Foil. I started off wing foiling and sup foiling. Still consider myself very much to be a beginner / intermediate. I had the unfortunate experience of my boards breaking just before the lockdown, so I couldn't get a replacement. So I thought I would just spend the time doing some flat water pumping. And to show you the board that I've been using, this is a self-modified, cut-down wake surfboard. A very old wake surfboard as well. So basically I cut the ends off. It's now 311 by 18 inches wide. It's got about 16 litres of volume, but it's very heavy. It's a really old board. It's about 5.5 kilos. For such a tiny board, that's ridiculous, but it's the only one that I had. I stuck on this plate here and a whole load of threaded inserts, but it works really well as a wake foil board and for flat water pumping. Apart from the weight of it, there's nothing, that's been holding me back, so I can't complain. If you're wondering what this is about, I've put 3 threaded inserts there, so I can use a foot strap as a handle. And if I undo that one, swivel the foot strap around and put it in there, then it's a front foot strap, which I used to begin with for wake foiling. I don't use it anymore now. I prefer not to. But the handle is really useful. So that's the board that I've been using for flat water pumping. I have been using the 29.5 inch Go Foil mast with a plate adapter there. And to begin with, while I was using the Maliko 280, as you can see, it's probably the biggest wing that you'll find on the market, one of them. Very low aspect ratio, incredibly stable, tons of lift, and it will allow you to foil at a very low speed. So to begin with, I was using the Maliko tail. So the Maliko tail just on back, and I didn't really have any basic comparison, but I then ordered the pedestal and 18-inch wide flat tail stab, and the reason why was because when I saw the Go Foil unveiling YouTube videos, I think it was Austin Kalama and Alex Aguera were saying just how fast this rear tail stab made all of their foils. So I've got the 280, I've got the 200, I've got the EVA. I've done a lot more wing foiling than I have sup foiling. And the difference it makes having this tail stab compared to the Maliko tail is unbelievable. Even with the Maliko 280 as the front wing, if I'm using the Maliko tail, it has a very limited top speed, and it always feels like it's going to blow out and you're just going to face plant as soon as you pick up too much speed. But with this tail on, it eliminated a lot of that, and I found that I could get a lot more speed, especially with the 200. Now, when I started flat water pumping, I put a washer underneath the rear screw here, just to elevate the rear part of the tail stab, which gives a lot more lift. Now, when I heard that, I thought, okay, I'll give it a try, and it really surprised me how much more lift it gives. But it's at the expense of speed. And when you're flat water pumping, especially from a dock start, jumping off from a jetty, a boat, a rock, or whatever, the most important thing I found anyway is to get speed straight. If you don't maintain your speed, you stall, and that's it, game over. So for the first two sessions, first two days I was trying this, I had a washer under there as a shim, give me a little bit more lift. But then I just tried it without, and again, what a difference that made. It's that little bit of extra speed, but I don't think, because I did try it without the shim the very first few goes, and I was like, just didn't get anywhere. So I shimmed it, and I was getting somewhere. For me, I think it was important to start with the shim to give a little bit of extra lift. Those first two sessions, it allowed me to just get used to the technique that I had to use. But from then on, I found that I had just enough technique to be able to go without the shim, and that extra speed helps, it really does. So the 280, okay, now check out the thickness of that leading edge. It's a bad boy, it really is. Now, my experience and my feelings about these two wings, the 280 and the 240, the technique you've got to use for the 280, I like to call porpoising, because you're shoving your front foot down and then you're pushing down on your back foot to spring back up to get that lift, and then trying to lift yourself up as high as you can so the weight comes off of your feet, you're on your toes momentarily, before shoving your front foot down again. And then it's a bit like a skateboard ollie. You're shoving your front foot down, but immediately you're pressing down with your back foot to be able to bring it back up again, and there's the uncompression. So you're springing back up again, and you compress, uncompress, and you're porpoising the whole time. And if you look at videos of people who are pumping with the, as long as you know what wing they're using, the 280 or the low aspect wings, in my opinion, they're doing this up and down movement to generate lift and speed. Now you can get away with that with the low aspect wing. The 280 is the only one that I've used. Because there's so much lift, the thickness here gives so much lift, you can shove your front foot down and jump back up again, and not much of a problem. However, when I started using the 240, using that technique just meant that I planted the nose of the board into the water pretty much every time. Now, if you look at the guys on YouTube who are using the real high aspect wings, their boards don't seem to go, the nose of the board especially, doesn't seem to dip down and do this porpoising action. It's very much, well, just less movement in the nose and less movement going up and down in the water from the point of view of the height of the mast. So what I figured out through a lot of trial and error, mostly error, was, I think it was Zane Schweitzer who I was listening to one of the Progression Project podcasts, and I think Zane was comparing the low aspect and the high aspect wings, the action of how to pump them, as the difference between, you'll only get this if you've ever ridden horses, galloping a horse and trotting while riding a horse. So the galloping, the horse is like moving forward and up and down, so you've got that porpoising motion. And the trotting with the high aspect wings, you're just more going up and down. That's it, it's up and down. And rather than shoving your front foot down, it's very much you're bending down as you're pushing down, and then you're just rising back up again. And yes, there is, for me anyway, at the moment, there's this very slight momentary front foot first, just to get the wing pointing the slightest angle down, and then it's all about the back leg. It's, like I mentioned before, a skateboard ollie. You're pushing down with both feet. The front foot is really just steering, at least in terms of pitch, so up and down, but your back foot is the drive. I sort of, for me, that's low aspect is porpoising. High aspect is like a rear wheel drive car. So you've got the all the power coming from your back leg, and the front wheels. The front wheels, your front leg, is more about, well, for a car it'd be steering, but for this analogy it's pitch. So if you ram your front foot down, there's nowhere near as much lift, and you just go down. And you lose the height, and after a few pumps you're in the water, and the board's in the water, and that's it. But if you just angle it slightly down, and then your back foot pressure, you're pushing it through the water like that. And there's so much more speed with these things. These things are super fast. If you go down, it's just down in the water. So you angle it down a little bit, but then the push comes from your back foot, and you're gliding through the water. And as you spring up, then it's just so much easier. Let me put this down. So, as ever, it's compression going on, and you're pushing down first with your front foot and immediately your back foot. So really, apart from the first split second where your front foot pressure is just to angle the board slightly down, then it's equal amounts of pressure from both of your legs, but really actually that's wrong, because it's more, I find I get better height on the mast and more glide when I'm putting more pressure, more force through my back leg. But they're both working at the same time, because your front foot is controlling the pitch of the board, or the angle of the front of the board, while your back foot is generating that drive, the energy. And this is the thing about the high aspect compared to the low aspect wings. So much more of your energy that you're using is translated or transferred into forward momentum and speed. So you don't want to be going up and down, because that's going to be killing your speed. You want to be just literally just pushing down slightly but going back up, down slightly, whereas with the low aspect wing you're doing this porpoising motion. Now I've got to admit this is totally new to me. I'm going to put some videos of my attempts. I'm trying to splice them to this video, just to show you what I mean. Some from when I was using the 280 and some from the 240. But if you look at the good guys on YouTube, it's so much more refined. They've got a lot more time on the water than I have, lucky them. But it's a work in progress, and something that I've figured out that's really important, another difference between the two, is that for the low aspect wings, your feet's much further apart. With the high aspect wings, you bring your feet together, so they're closer together, and that really helps you to not angle the front of the board down as you're pushing down. It's got all sorts of lovely benefits as well, having your feet slightly closer together. And I'm only talking like a couple of inches, moving your front foot a couple of inches back and your back foot a couple of inches forward. And it's still taking me time to get used to it. So I'll jump on the board, and then while I'm moving up, I'll sort of move them together if I didn't land right to begin with. So on-the-go corrections is a really important thing, because the next thing I want to do in this video is just take you through what I consider to be the technique that I'm using anyway. And if you've got any advice for me, I would really welcome it, because if you think I'm doing something wrong, please tell me. I love trying new techniques, new methods, but I consider it to be 4 steps. I'm a very analytical kind of guy, and I like to break it down in my head, visualize it, and it really helps me. So first thing is the jump, second thing is the landing, third thing is technique, and obviously there's a difference in technique between the high aspect and low aspect. I suppose turning would be the 4th point. So the jump, what helped me with this? I watched a video where somebody said commit to the jump, and if you don't commit, it's just going to go horribly wrong. I would also recommend having the board level with your feet, or just 2 or 3 inches below your feet, because if you're jumping down onto the board, it just seems to generate that a little bit more momentum, a little bit easier as well. If you're having to jump up, then a lot of your energy doesn't go into forward motion. Now again, if you're running along a dock or a jetty and jumping onto it, you don't need to worry about that because you've got your forward momentum. But I start from literally standing on the side of a boat, or I've recently been doing it on a ladder. So putting a step ladder in the sea and climbing to the top. It works. It's harder than a boat. I suppose a boat start would be very similar to a rock start. I don't think either of them you can run along the side and then jump onto the board. It's pretty much just a subtle little push to give the board just a little bit of movement, and then you jump onto it. And I like to land both feet forward, both feet first. Both feet at the same time, that's better. I've seen a lot of videos where people say, oh, land with back foot first. And I've tried that, horribly wrong. I think if you're running, or at least 2 or 3 steps, then that's a better idea. But if you're starting from pretty much a still position, I'm standing on the edge of the boat, holding the board, obviously the foil's underneath it, and it's now with the foil just in the water, and from here I'll just give it a little push and then instantly jump, landing with my feet at the same time, landing with the feet on the board at the same time. With the 280 there was that initial almighty push down with the front foot and then jumping back up, really uncompressing my body, springing up before just carrying on that porpoising motion. With the 240, that first bit you've got to make sure that you don't put pressure on the front foot. Just the landing, really important to land your weight equally distributed between your 2 feet, 2 legs, your body upright. I like to have my front foot at 45 degrees, other people prefer other things. But yeah, really important, just commit to the jump, visualize where you are going to land, and I always visualize with my front foot at the landing spot, and my back foot just seems to follow. Okay, so that's the landing. The second thing, really, hang on, I remember this. First thing was the jump. The second thing was the landing. The third thing is the technique. Yes, so I've been through that earlier on in the video. Turning, yeah. Don't lean. If you lean, you'll fall over. Twist with your shoulders, like snowboarding. If you twist your shoulders, or like allow your front knee to come in, then your board and the foil will follow. Twisting the other way as well. Just remember, as ever, to keep your, if that's a hydrofoil with the mast underneath, your body has to be upright in line with the mast. If you lean first, then you're out of alignment and it just goes horribly wrong. Okay, I think I'm pretty much getting to the end of everything I wanted to say, apart from maybe if 3 was technique, 3A was technique, then maybe 3B, there's a proviso, would be on-the-go corrections. So I find it very difficult to believe that even the pros land perfectly every single time. I certainly don't, but what I've begun to notice is that once you've jumped onto the board and you've got your first pump or 2 in, then especially once you've uncompressed, you're forcing yourself up to make yourself as light as you can on the board, and from that point you can just a quick adjustment with your feet and get your perfect position, and you can very easily tell if you're pumping, something doesn't feel right. At some point it'll cause you to fall off. But if you manage to get that little bit of correction while you're going, suddenly everything just feels, oh, that's you know, all in alignment, it's working, it's doing really well. Something I forgot earlier, arm movement. So when you're compressing and uncompressing, it really does help to have a bit of an arm movement as well. So you can have the forward back arm movement, or you can just do the flap arm movement. If you think they look stupid, you try them and see if it helps or not. And I don't think you'll care if you look stupid. Pretty much everybody does them because they help, they really do. It just helps to unweight yourself from the boards. So as you're coming back up, just that little bit of movement from your arms really helps to lift your weight up off the board for you to gain the extra height. It just makes everything so much easier. For me personally, and you'll probably see from the videos I include at the end of this, I don't always remember. In fact, I very rarely remember to do it. It's on my hit list to focus on next. The times that I do remember to do it, it usually helps. But at the moment, I'm very much a flapping arm type style, or lack of. When I'm doing this sort of motion, even though it feels much more natural when I'm standing here doing it, and it's probably a lot easier on the shoulder muscles, because it just causes me to tense up in my shoulders and neck. If I'm doing this, sometimes it throws me off balance. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. New techniques, just because they're hard doesn't mean to say they're not worth persevering with. So I'm going to try it and see what happens. Everybody has their own preferred version of what they do with their arms. So test as many different options as you can and see which works best for you. So, the last thing, one more thing, fitness, blimey. I used to do triathlon when I was a lot younger, and I consider myself fairly fit. I could, do 10k runs, decent time, windsurfing, kite surfing, 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours. But this is a different level, flat water pumping, blimey. At the end of every session, I am panting like a good one, really just, I thought my fitness level was better than it was, but this has taken it to a different level. High intensity, any type of high intensity workout, circuit training, intermittent sprint training, it's all really good. Personally, I do a lot of work on a cross trainer because of a lower back injury in the past, so running is too much impact on my lower spine. So intermittent sprint training, trying to increase my the times that they do the sprinting, and reducing the recovery times in between each sprint. So, for example, a 5-minute chunk, a minute sprinting, 4 minutes recovery at a medium pace, repeat. Can do it at a high cadence, so 3 minute intervals, 30 seconds sprint, 2.5 minutes recovery. Obviously the intensity of each sprint is up to you, but on a cross trainer it's really cool because you can see the revolutions per minute or whatever the display gives you. But whether it's sprinting, hill sprints, just sprint, was it fartlek training where you do a sprint and then you slow down and another sprint. Any of those things really good for increasing your aerobic capacity. But then muscular strength comes into it, as well as anaerobic capacity. So any sort of HIIT workout or circuits, that sort of thing. My girlfriend is a personal trainer, so she's been setting me some really nasty circuits to do. But you know, she's tailored some of the exercises to foiling, which is brilliant. One of them, in fact, the two that I'm just going to tell you now really quickly that I really strongly recommend, are both what she calls a dynamic squat and a dynamic lunge. So there's pulse jump squat and a pulse jump lunge. So if you just go into a normal squat and come back up again, it's a fairly good exercise if you do enough of them. But if you turn it into a pulse and then jump and go back into the pulse and then jump, and you carry on doing that, you will get a leg burn. You really, really will. And the other one that I really recommend for this sport is the pulse jump squats. So you get yourself into a squat position, and from here you can pulse and then jump to swap, and you're pulsing again and jumping to swap. And trust me, you'll feel the burn in your legs with those two, you really will. But you know, just think about the exercises that you include in a HIIT or a circuit workout. At the moment, I'm doing 40 seconds on, 20 seconds rest, because it's a nice round minute, and then you go on to the next exercise once you've done a whole sequence or set, I suppose. Again, personally, I'm 2 minutes rest. But to increase your aerobic capacity, reduce the anaerobic capacity. If you want to increase your anaerobic capacity, increase the duration that you're doing the exercises. You can make your rests longer. It's just really pushing each exercise so that you're doing it for slightly longer each time. And for me, that's one of the most important things, because yeah, I'm panting like crazy at the end of, I suppose really my best runs at the moment are still only 35 seconds. See people out there, you know, they're doing the minute challenge. That's my target, and I'll be very happy if when I reach that. I've got a few example videos that I'm going to put on the end of this, just so that you can see what I've done myself. The first video will be using the 280, and the following two videos will be the 240. I'll try and do a little voiceover just to explain what's going on, or my thought process anyway. So yeah, I hope this is useful. Personally, I have really found it very beneficial, very useful, watching a lot of the YouTube videos, just trying to look at different people's technique. It's really helped me, so I hope this helps some people. Right, take care and keep practicing. Cheers. So for the Maliko 280, you should be able to tell that the nose of the board is going up and down very much in an exaggerated porpoising motion, and I'm trying to lean forward as I push my front foot down and forward to generate that forward momentum, exaggerating it here. I included a slow-mo clip of the takeoff, just so you can see with the first pump after landing, I'm pressing down with both feet. Here you go, the first pump going down, both feet pressure at the same time, so that the nose of the board doesn't go down into the water. And with the full clip, this is early on with the 240, so it's by no means perfect yet, but you'll be able to tell in a minute that my feet are slightly closer together, and overall, even though there's still a bit of flapping at times, the nose of the board isn't going up and down quite so much. I really wish I could get those arms swinging. That would help a lot. Not the most dignified of endings. I think I was trying to avoid a jellyfish there.
And this second clip, this was later on in the same day. I'm really beginning to get that forcing motion of my feet at the same time. You can really see a bit of progress, a bit of better technique in the point of view that the nose doesn't point down with each hump. Anyway, there we go. I hope it helps. Please leave some comments. Have a great time.